What happened to Charlie Chaplin? The sad ending of Charlie Chaplin. Sir Charles Spencer Chaplin, April 16, 1889 to December 25, 1977, is an English comic book actor, filmmaker, and composer who is famous in the era of silent film. He became a worldwide icon thanks to the screen character The Tramp, and is regarded as one of the most important figures in the history of the film industry. His career spanned more than 75 years, from childhood in the Victorian era until a year before his death in 1977, and included both praise. Chaplin has written, directed, produced, edited, starred, and composed most of his films. He was a perfectionist, and his financial independence helped him spend years developing and producing a picture. Behind that aura was a life of unhappiness. Chaplin's childhood was full of poverty and difficulties. For a comedian, who always brings laughter to the audience, if he reveals his harsh, scary side, his funny career will be severely affected. So, Chaplin has, by all means, hid his light. In the early years, Chaplin lived with his mother and brother Sidney in the Kennington district, London. Hannah has no income but occasional nursing and making clothes, and Chaplin Sr. no financial assistance is available. When things got worse, Chaplin was sent to the Lambeth House when he was 7 years old. The council put him in the Central District London School for the Needy. He was reunited with his mother shortly thereafter, 18 months, before Hannah was forced to send his family to a concentration camp in July 1898. The boys were quickly sent to Norwood School, a facility. Another education. In September 1898, Hannah was placed in a psychiatric ward, and Chaplin and his brother Sidney were sent to live with their father, whom the boys barely knew. Charles Sr., a heavy alcoholic at that time. Chaplin's father died 2 years later, at the age of 38, of cirrhosis. Chaplin's childhood was considered by him to have ended at the age of 7 when he had to go to a hospice. This was a shock that Chaplin could never overcome. "I seldom knew what a crisis was because I have lived in crisis since I was a boy. I allow myself to get out of all troubles." From a young age, Chaplin began to perform in fun plays for a living. In 1910, young Chaplin and the troupe had their first tour to America. When he started looking for Hollywood, comedian Charlie Chaplin received a lot of advice from the giants of the entertainment industry about his comedy style. One major studio considering spending money on Chaplin traveling from England to Hollywood to audition said his comedy style was too silly, that the young actor should give up that exaggerated acting. Of course, Chaplin did not listen, and thanks to that, he later became a famous comedian. If that day, Chaplin had followed the will of the Hollywood entertainment industry's giants to act in the style they wanted, giving up on his own creations, the world would not have had a symbol of popular. In 1914, Charlie Chaplin made the first silent comedy, making a living, for a small studio. Shortly thereafter, he was successful with his role as the Tramp, a short film of only 5 minutes, and it was Chaplin who formed the legendary character in the silent film genre. In his autobiography, Chaplin wrote, "On the way to the dressing room, I thought I could wear baggy pants, a cane, and a melon hat. I wanted everything to be contradictory: baggy pants with a tight jacket, a small hat with oversized shoes. Older, I also had no idea what my character was, but at the time I dressed up what kind of person he was. I began to know how I was going to act, and when I walked out on set, he was really born." The role of the Lang Thang, or the King of Clown Saklo, has created a large number of fans around the world. People create dolls, hats, socks, decks of cards, and chewing gum bearing his image, which is sold everywhere. Children around the world sing songs about him in the play. Later, comedian Charlie Chaplin also won 3 Academy Awards in his 75-year career, with many roles such as actor, screenwriter, director, and producer. The character the Tramp will stick with him almost throughout his career, and he is known as an actor who knows how to do everything to play the role. Chaplin's enthusiasm for filmmaking was the key to his comedian career. With the character's success, Chaplin gradually entered the position of producer and director for the film he starred in. In 1919, Chaplin co-founded United Artists to take complete control of his film production process. His first feature-length films were The Kid, 1921, Then a Woman of Paris, 1923, The Gold Rush, 1925, The Circus, 1928. He refused to switch to making movies in the 1930s, instead of going on to produce silent movies. "I am determined to continue making silent movies," Chaplin said. "I am a mimist, and in that medium, I am a unique master and not artificially humble." His films are often characterized by jokes and emotions, embodied in Tramp's struggle against external hostility. Many films contain political and social themes, as well as autobiographical elements. At the beginning of the era of famous movies, Chaplin made two famous silent films: City Lights, 1931, and Modern Times, 1936. City Lights tells the story of Tramp's love for a blind prostitute, considered the worst, possessing a small, lightweight, unbalanced body with a big head, thin body, but perhaps his witty charm plus popularity helped Charlie Chaplin easily cut down many charming ladies of the time. At that time. Because of that, no one can count how many love affairs the king of the comedy of the 20th century has. Only know that in reality in his life, Charlie Chaplin went through 4 marriages. The first 3 marriages all fell apart in tragedy. Perhaps, a miserable childhood, along with the helpless, loveless status of someone who never knew who his real biological father was, a mother who always had illicit out-of-the-line relationships, has caused man Charlie Chaplin grew up with an inherent female aversion, never trusted women, even though he was still passionate about them. To him, the woman is Charlie Chaplin married his first wife, beautiful actress Edna Purviance, when he was 25 years old, a beautiful blonde woman. Edna always proved to be a meek, humble person, met Charlie's expectations, and knew how to cope with his unpredictable temperament. However, their marriage could not last long. Before pitying her shirt to find happiness in another man who cared more about her, Edna bitterly exclaimed, "Chaplin is a genius, and a genius should never marry." The second marriage between Charlie Chaplin and actress Mildred Harris was also no better. Charlie met and fell in love with 16-year-old actress Mildred Harris at a party in 1918. He was 29 years old and is a Hollywood actor making money. Both are in love passionately as much as possible. However, when Mildred announced she was pregnant, she couldn't have expected her partner to be so panicked. But to avoid scandal, Charlie decided to enter. Although there is a sacred bridge between them, their husband and wife relationship is still not free from the lacks, but the one who wants to let go is the king of comedy. Like in his previous marriage, family life with many pressures, responsibilities, and constraints did not suit Charlie, causing him to feel stuffy, frustrated, and want to destroy everything. And happiness without being accreted will collapse as a matter of course. In April 1920, Mildred Chaplin filed for divorce and, before leaving, as well as her predecessor, Mildred said bitterly, "He, Charlie Chaplin, married me but soon forgot and left behind." He said that he liked to live his own free life and wanted to do the things he felt like. He was very impatient, and After his marriage to Mildred, Charlie continued his love affair with a 15-year-old young girl, Lita Gray, the actress he chose in his movie The Gold Rush. Just like with Mildred, Lita was pregnant with Charlie and he suggested that she have an abortion. When he learned that he would face a 30-year prison sentence for having sex with a minor, Charlie was forced to marry Lita. But a forced marriage is a marriage in hell. After the wedding, Charlie publicly disregarded his wife, and Lita did not hesitate to reveal that her famous husband was just a greedy, decadent man. What comes must come. Just a year after the wedding, they pulled together to divorce court. Lita was divided by Chaplin by $825,000, the largest amount in but the fierce upheaval of previous stormy marriages did not stop Charlie Chaplin's longing for a happy family. 9 years after divorcing Lita Gray, Chaplin entered the third marriage with an actress named Paulette Goddard, muse in many works of the King of Comedy. She was the lead actress in Charlie's last silent film, Modern Times in 1936, and the actor in the Comedy King's first voiceover film, The Great Dictator, in 1940. Their marriage lasted only 6. The year, 1936 to 1942, was broken. The only thing that comforts the comedian is that this call is quiet, not as noisy as the. Fortunately for the King of Comedy, at the end of his life, he had a so-called happy marriage. When Charlie Chaplin, at the age of 53, decided to get married for the fourth time with Una O'Neill, a young 17-year-old young girl, 35 years younger than him. The age difference marriage makes no one believe that they can go together such a long, smooth journey. The age gap is too large. The controversies and scandals that have surrounded the comedians for a long time cannot separate them. 18 years on the road, they have together 8 children. In his memoir, Chaplin considered meeting O'Neill the happiest event of his life and said she was the perfect love he was still looking for. But these mental defects not only prevented the King of Comedy from enjoying a happy marriage, but it also made him a difficult father in the eyes of his children, an unpleasant friend in the eyes of friends and colleagues. Chaplin's children in his relatively happy fourth marriage are also afraid of seeing him. They often punished him for violating one of the many rules he set. But perhaps, really in the heart of the comedian, on December 25, 1977, Charlie Chaplin died at home in Switzerland after a long illness. Unexpectedly, just like a movie, his coffin in a Swiss cemetery was stolen by 2 thieves to demand a ransom of $400,000 shortly after the funeral. About 11 weeks later, the tomb thieves were arrested and his body returned. His grave was rebuilt to be more solid and safe. Later, the theft of his body was also reconstructed into a film by a French author named Xavier Beauvoir with the participation of his son. Chaplin's second half-life can be encapsulated in the tension between art and commerce in the film industry, cultural values surrounding marriage and family, as well as the way a celebrity can easily become the scapegoat for certain phobias. With real life, especially childhood, there was not much fun. So throughout his life, Chaplin was by all means hiding his life behind the screen. Chaplin did not allow reporters, photographers, to appear on his set. Only his trusted photographer friends were allowed to bring cameras to the set. With the press, Chaplin tried to block the detrimental information. Chaplin does write an autobiography, but he mentions very little of. Let us know what other actors and celebrities you would like to know in our comments below so we can make the next videos. Thanks for watching and see you next video. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our